Hello and welcome to another practice. Today we have a core focused practice. We will be working on our core muscles and our oblique strength and twisting and turning. So be prepared to build some heat and tone your core muscles. We do not need any props at all today. We don't even need a block for any of the transitions. Be mindful of how you feel during your practice. Take it at your own pace. Go with your breath and add any modifications that suits you today. Be thankful for all the small changes that you're creating on a daily basis. Please do consider subscribing to the channel and I'll meet you on the mat. Meet me on the mat on all fours. Make sure that your palms are directly underneath your shoulders. Open all your fingers, grip the mat and your knees are in line with your hips. Engage your core, tuck your tailbone and take a deep inhale. Exhale, drop your belly, lift your chest. Next breath, round your back, push the mat away from you, tuck your tailbone. Few more of cat and cows. Drop your belly, lift your chest. Round your back, shoulder blades move away from each other, tuck your tailbone. Drop your belly, lift your chest. And cat stretch. Two more. Come to neutral spine. Extend your right leg, point your right foot, bring the right foot on the outside of your left hip. You can bring your gaze towards your right foot. Next exhale, draw a big arc on the floor and bring your foot on the outside of your right hip, in line with your right hip. Bring it back on the outside of your left hip and outside of your right hip. Three more of those. Go at the pace of your breath. The whole time engage your core. After the last one, bring your right foot in between your palms. Sink your hips towards your right heel. Arms come alongside your ears. You should feel a nice stretch in the front of your left thigh. Stack your hips directly over your knees. Open your arms out in a T. Take a twist. Open your chest towards your bent leg. Sink your hips down and bring your right hand on the outside of your left thigh. Take a twist. You can bring your gaze towards your top hand. Hold. Release your arms back into a T and your left palm comes on the in line with your right foot. Open your right hand up towards the sky. Take a twist. Square your chest down towards the mat. Come into a runner's lunge. Bring your left foot to meet your right. Sit in your chair. Palms to your chest. Float your heels. Slowly bring your hips down towards your heels. Come into a pistol squat. Come into a toe balance. Optional, float your right leg, pointing your right foot. Bring your hips down onto the mat. Your left foot comes in line with your right inner thigh. Open your chest towards your bent knee. Bring your right elbow on the inside of your right knee. Open your top shoulder up towards the sky. Extend your left hand. Hold. If you want to deepen your lateral side body stretch, extend your left hand in line with your ears. Be mindful, bring both your sit bones down on the mat. Release. Left palm comes down on the mat in line with your hips and lift up. Keep your right knee parallel to the short edge of the mat. Come into a supported side plank. Next breath, float your right leg and every exhale bring your elbow and your right knee to touch for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. Plant your right foot, stack your shoulders directly over your hips. Bring your right hand to rest on your right leg. Left hand extends up towards the sky. Bring your gaze up towards the sky. Back into your supported side plank. Bring your right foot in line with your left palm. Come into an easy twist. Palm the mat. Float your right leg, three-legged dog. Turn your palms slightly inwards. Take 5 push-ups. 5, 4, 3, 2, last one. Come into a tiger crunch. Bring your right knee to chest. Plant your right leg down, shin parallel to the short edge of the mat. Open up into a supported side plank on the other side. Stack your shoulders directly over your hips, palms to your chest. Bring your left toes to point the front edge of the mat. Sink your hips towards your left heel and come back up. 4, 3, 2, last one. Come back up. Square your chest to the mat, palm the mat, come into runner's lunge, step back into plank, flow through Chaturanga, upward facing dog, lift your hips, come back on all fours. Extend your left leg, bring your left toes on the outside of your right hip. Every exhale draw an arch and bring your left toes in line with your left hip. 4, 3, 2, last one. Bring your left foot in between your palms, sink your hips towards your left heel, arms come alongside your ears. Open your arms out in a T, stack your hips directly over your back knee, take a twist, opening your chest towards the bent knee. Sink your hips forward once more, bring your left hand on the outside of your right thigh, gaze up towards the sky. Release back into a T, frame your front foot, tuck your back toes, come into a runner's lunge. Bring your back foot to meet your front and arms come alongside your ears into a chair. Palms come to your chest, float your heels, hips come down onto your heels to a toe balance. Optional to float your left leg. Bring your sit bones down onto the mat. Your right foot comes to your left inner thigh. Open your chest towards your bent knee. Bring your left elbow on the inside of your left leg. Extend your right hand up towards the sky. Gaze up towards the sky as well. Make sure that your sit bones are down on the mat. Optional, top hand in line with your ears. Release your lateral side body stretch. Bring your right palm in line with your hips. Lift your hips up. Your right shin is parallel to the short edge of the mat. Come into a supported side plank. Left hand in line with your ears. Float your left leg. Next 5 breaths. Every breath bring your left elbow and left knee to crunch for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Plant your left foot, arms come out into a T, stack your shoulders directly over your hips. Left palm on top of your left leg, extend your top arm up towards the sky. Plant your palms down onto the mat, come into a plank and lift up into a three-legged dog, floating your left leg. 5, turn your palms slightly inwards, take 5 push-ups. 5, 4, 3, 2, last one. Bring your left knee into chest, come into a tiger crunch. Plant your left shin down parallel to the short edge of the mat. Open up into a supported side plank. Stack your shoulders directly over your hips. Palms come to your chest. Turn your right foot out so your toes are pointing the front edge of the mat. Sink your hips towards your right heel and come back up for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Frame your front foot, step back into plank, flow through chaturanga, upward facing dog, lift your hips, come into your first downward facing dog. Next breath, float your right leg, point your right foot. Optional to take 3 downward dog push-ups. 1, 2, 3. Bring your right knee to chest, come into a tiger crunch. Plant your right foot in between your palms. Arms come alongside your ears. Sink your hips down. Bring your front thigh parallel to the mat. High crescent lunge. Plant your back foot. Make sure that your front heel and back arch are in line with each other. Sink your hips down. Open up warrior 2. Reverse your warrior. Optional to take a bind with your left hand coming behind your back towards your right thigh. Release your reverse warrior. Bring your hips towards your back heel and sit into Skandasana. You can point your right foot up towards the sky. Hold your Skandasana. Optional to take a bind. Release your bind, plant your right foot and bring your hips towards your right heel. Square your chest to the front edge of the mat. Come into an easy twist. Make sure that your left palm is directly underneath your shoulder. Stack your feet and open up into a side plank. Keep squeezing your bottom hip up. You should feel it in your obliques. Bend your knees and bring your hips down onto the mat. You're facing the back edge of the mat. Extend your arms in front of you. Pull your knees into your chest. Float your heels. Come into boat. Optional to keep your heels down on the mat. If you want an extra challenge, extend your legs and pull your knees back into your chest. We'll do that for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you want another challenge, you can bring your palms to your chest or leave it extended. Roll on to your left butt cheek, extend your leg, pull it back into your chest. Roll on to your right butt cheek, extend and pull it back. 2 more on each side. Extend and back. You'll feel the fire in your obliques. Last one. Come back to your boat, hold, bring your feet down onto the mat and roll forward into a toe stand. Toe balance. Take a deep breath. Plant your feet and sit in your malasana. Take a breath. In your malasana, optional to add a challenge. Bring your arms alongside your ears. Make sure that your knees are moving out towards your pinky toe. Squeeze your glutes. Release your palms down onto the mat. And you have an option to take a crow variation here, or you can continue to stay in your malasana. Release from your crow, come back into your toe balance. Bring your knees down onto the mat, stack your hips directly over your knees. Extend your right leg out. Bring your arms out in a T. Bring your left palm down onto the mat or on the ground. Now this plant is directly in front of my face. Float your right leg. Extend your right hand alongside your ears. Hold. Squeeze your bottom glute towards the front of the mat. Release back. Stack your shoulders over your hips. Come back into your toe stand. Bring your sit bones down on the mat. Extend your left leg. Right foot on the outside of your left thigh. Take a seated twist. Release your twist. Keep rotating towards the front edge of the mat. Come into a full plank. Flow through your chaturanga. Upward facing dog. Lift your hips. Downward facing dog. Float your left leg. Optional 5 push-ups. Turn your palms inward slightly if you're doing the push-ups. 5, 4, 3, 2, last one. Right knee to chest, tiger crunch. Plant your right foot in between your palms. Come up into high crescent lunge. Plant your back foot, open up, warrior 2. Sink your hips down. Reverse your warrior. Optional to take a bind with your right hand. Release your bind. Back into warrior 2. Palms to your chest. Bring your hips towards your right heel. Sit down in Skandasana. Optional to take a bind. Release your bind. Back to Skandasana. Plant your left foot. Float to the front of the mat into an easy twist. Make sure that your right palm is directly underneath your right shoulder. Transition into a side plank. Hold. Bend your knees. Bring your sit bones down on the mat. Float your feet off the mat. Come into a boat. 5 crunches here. Extend and crunch. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Optional oblique crunches. Rotate onto your right cheek. Extend, crunch. Move onto your left cheek. Extend and crunch. 2 more on each side. Bring your feet down onto the mat, roll forward, come into a toe balance and move a little behind my mat. Sorry, my face is not in that plant. Hold your toe balance. Feet comes down onto the mat all the way into Malasana. Add a challenge by extending your arms up towards the sky. Squeeze your glutes. Continue to stay here or try playing in a crow pose. Back to Malasana. Come back into toe balance. Bring your knees down. Stack your hips directly over your knees. Extend your left leg out. Arms come out into a T. Supported half moon. Float your left foot. Squeeze your bottom glute and hold. Release. Come back with shoulders stacking over your hips. Arms come to your chest. Back into a toe balance. Extend, bring your sit bones down onto the mat. Extend your right leg this time. Bring your left foot on the outside of your right thigh. Take a seated twist. Release your twist. Keep rotating until you face the front of the mat. Come into a full plank. Flow through Chaturanga. Upward facing dog. Bring your knees down onto the mat. Cross your legs. Come into seated position. Take a deep breath. Extend both your legs out. Flex your foot. Arms alongside your ears. Sit up tall and hinge from your hips. Fold forward and breathe. Make sure that your shoulders are moving away from your ears and the back of your neck is long. You can hold your big toes or you can wrap your fingers around your heels. You can have a block in front of your feet. Release your forward fold. Come all the way down onto the mat. We can take a few bridge ups. Make sure that your heels or hip distance are slightly wider. The weight is all the way on your heels. Tuck your tailbone, lift your hip, come back down. 5, 4, 3, 2, last one, come back down. You can do another 5 bridge ups or you can come into a full wheel. If you are coming into a full wheel, lift your hips up like you would in a bridge. Bring your palms on the outside of your ears and next exhale, squeeze your glutes and push back up. Push all the way up, come into your wheel. Release your back bend. Come back down onto your mat. Hug your knees into your chest. We'll end our practice in Shavasana. Thank you so much for spending this time with me and doing this practice. I would like to hear from you, so leave me a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Consider subscribing to the channel. Have a beautiful week ahead. I'll see you on the mat soon again.